Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the live show tonight. We got a fun one. We're not necessarily covering Star Wars, even though we did get a new TV spot for the Acolyte today, where we got to see Vernestra Rose Light Whip in
Light whip.
action in the TV
Woohoo.
spot. Really, really excited about that. That's one of my favorite lightsabers that they
Oh
have
yeah.
in the High Republic. Joining me again this evening to talk X-Men 97. I don't think she's a fan of any of these characters. Definitely not a fan of Scott Summers or anybody like that.
Oh yeah, totally. Not a fan.
Oh, I just
Never
had
even
echo. I thought that I muted my YouTube here.
no. Oh
Uh, so if you have an echo in the stream here, folks, I'm sorry. Um, I just muted it. Yeah, definitely not a fan of Cyclops though.
no, no, no. Never even heard of Scott Summers. Never heard of that guy.
No, no, no.
No. Never
Or
never
Alex Summers
or
or
no.
Nathan Christopher Summers
Nope. Jean
or
Grey, never heard
Jean
of
Grey.
her.
No, 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 no. Or the Juggernaut Biatch.
Yes.
Um,
Juggernaut Biatch or any
yeah,
of them.
yeah. Even though Juggernaut wasn't in this season at
No, he was
all.
not at all.
No.
He was missing.
No.
But yeah, I have been a big X-Men fan, just like you from the '90s. We both grew up with
Yep.
the original cartoon.
Hmm.
So I've been a fan pretty much all my life from like age 7 probably. So all the way up through.
Uh, yeah, it started in 93, I believe.
I believe I was too young when it first started. I was
Okay.
watching reruns. So,
Okay.
yep.
Yeah, so in 93 when it started, I was 6.
Mhm.
Um, but fell in love with it. Like
Oh yeah.
absolutely fell in love with it. Um, just because of the characters and the stories
The
and
story and the superhero powers, like each
oh
one had a
yeah.
different power and it was
Yeah.
so cool, and from a child's point of view, it was just they were all so amazing that they all had these different special powers,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we playing X-Men and developing your own mutant powers and everything,
Yeah.
you know?
And then at that point, I was really cutting my teeth on that X-Men arcade game.
Yep, yep.
That's when arcades were still like a really big
They were
thing.
still a thing in the bowling alleys. We had one in
Yeah.
our bowling alley, and I remember going there and playing that X-Men game
I
at that
mean,
arcade.
arcades are still a thing. It's just not as
I mean,
prominent anymore.
I'm trying to think, like, the nearest arcade to me is probably Dave& and Buster's now. Like, I think those are the only ones
What's our
local to me.
nearest arcade? Like Round One and Dave and Buster's? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what's really, really cool is the dental office that my wife goes to has a the re-release cabinet for the X-Men arcade
Oh my
game.
god, do they
It,
really? Oh my
I think it's
god.
like one of like the one ups or whatever, the
Oh,
level up
that's so
ones.
cool.
Yeah, so it's got X-Men and then it's got like X-Men and Avengers. So it's got like
Oh,
both.
yeah.
And then my local comic book store had, I believe it's in their basement now. They have the X-Men arcade cabinet, like the original arcade cabinet. Um, which I love that game so much. The X-Men
Oh,
arcade game
yes.
from like the late 80s, early 90s is awesome. Because at that point you had that game, you had Marvel versus Capcom was actually on
Marvel
arcade
versus Capcom.
cabinets.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was originally on that. Yep. That's where I first played it was in an arcade,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mortal Kombat was on arcade
Mortal
cabinets.
Kombat was in the cabinets.
Yeah.
I remember, was it Street Fighter?
Street Fighter was in
Yeah.
cabinets.
Yep.
And then The Simpsons had one too.
Yep.
Um, yeah, so here it is real quick. If you can see this,
Oh, that's amazing.
yeah, there we
Oh,
go. Yeah.
that's so cool.
And then there's like a Nintendo. Yeah. Yeah, there's like a
Oh,
Nintendo 64 one too.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Um, My wife says they're the best dentist office ever. Um, but that was like the 90s animated series, and then the arcade game really got me into X-Men. And then
X-Men, yeah.
um
And then we didn't have too many years to wait. I mean, we got the first X-Men movie in 2000.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
we were still pretty young when that came out.
But before we get to that, there's another staple that happened during X-Men the animated series. Um if you are under the age of uh 30, that's what I'm going to say, 30. And I don't mean to sound ageist here. Like I don't mean to sound that at all, because I don't want to alienate any of our younger community members, because
Yeah.
you guys are awesome. You make it what how dare I?
How
You
dare
guys are awesome. You make up an amazing part of our community. Like, you are an amazing part of our community. Um Pizza Hut in the 90s, which is a very long time ago, um did an X-Men promotion where you could get a personal pan pizza, like a personal pan pizza meal. It was like the personal pan pizza, a drink, and then you got an X-Men VHS tape, and you
I
got an
remember
X-Men
this.
comic.
I remember that. The personal pan pizza.
Yes,
Oh,
between the X-Men promotion and Book It,
yep.
Pizza Hut was the place to go in the 90s, man.
Do you remember? This is gonna sound old too, but do you remember the SpaghettiOs that were shaped as the X-Men?
Mhm. I
I
thought that
remember
you were
this.
gonna ask if I remember that Pizza Hut had salad bars, and yes,
Oh
this
yes, I
did.
do remember. Yeah.
Yes, Pizza Hut
The
restaurants
salad
had
bars.
salad bars, yeah, yeah.
And also the famous cups, the famous,
Oh, the red plastic cups?
the
I
red
miss those
plastic
so
cups.
much. People are watching this and they're like, "What does this have to do
X-Men.
with X-Men?" Yeah. Benjamin says, "When you could go into a Pizza Hut." Yeah, exactly. When you could go into a Pizza Hut. Absolutely.
Yes,
And Pizza Hut threw birthday parties back then too.
they did. They also
Yeah.
did the did your school do the reading thing
Yeah, Book
where
It.
you had to read book it? Yep,
Yeah,
yep,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yep.
Oh man,
Oh,
I was a reading connoisseur when I was a kid.
oh yeah, I was always
Oh
trying to
yeah.
get that stuff in that competition. Always.
Huh? Oh, we all became reading connoisseurs because guess what? We got free pizza.
We got free pizza. Of course, we were
Yeah.
gonna do it.
Our parents were like, "Hey, this is the cheapest dinner ever, because all we
Yeah,
need to do is get ourselves just a pizza, and our kid gets a personal pan pizza
pan
for
pizza,
free."
free. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then of course, you would have to get okay, okay, before we dive into X-Men,
yeah.
like further into X-Men, I have to ask, what was your go-to drink at Pizza Hut?
My go-to drink. Oh
Yeah.
God. I think it was pretty standard, the Coke with the pizza.
Okay. The Coke?
The Coke, yeah, the
Yeah. I
Coca-Cola.
I I was the root beer kid.
Oh, were you with the root beer kid?
Oh, I was the root beer kid. Yeah. Because to me, Pizza Hut personal pan pizza and root beer just had
Oh,
like this.
it's like me with the Coke, there's nothing
Yeah.
like Coke from the fountain
Oh
with
yeah.
personal pan pizza.
Oh yeah. And I got to tell you, those Coke drinks back then were sugary as hell.
They were back then. They're not like today. you know?
No, 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 they were worse back then.
Oh, yeah, they were worse back then. Like, you got a sugar rush with a Coke.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Even Sprite did it.
Oh, yeah, even Sprite or, like, a regular Orange Crush. You remember the
Oh
Orange
yeah, Orange
Crushes? Yeah.
Crush. Yeah, 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 yeah. You could even get it from Canada Dry too.
Yeah,
And
you
like
could, yeah.
Seagram. Yeah. And so you're probably wondering, what does this have to do with X-Men? Well, X-Men did that promotional back in the
With
90s,
Pizza
and it
Hut,
was
yep.
for X-Men the animated series, which is what we're talking about now. For those of you that are brand new to the X-Men, welcome.
Welcome, it's
This
a
is
vast world. It's a
it is.
vast world.
It is. Outside of Star Wars, this is kind of like my bread and butter,
Mhm.
because growing up with it in the 90s.
Yeah.
Um, if you're unfamiliar with the X-Men, welcome. The X-Men have been around since 1963, so we are over 60 years now with the X-Men. Um, which it's crazy. Absolutely crazy. They were originally created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. And of course, like I said, it kicked off in X-Men #1 back in 1963. Um, that series actually went a long time, and then
Yeah,
Marvel decided when just after Stanley and Jack Kirby decided to leave the book, Marvel wanted to continue on with X-Men.
yep,
So that's when other writers started coming in, most notably Chris Claremont, who you're going to hear a lot of Claremont
yes, a
tonight.
lot of Claremont. Yes, a
Yeah,
lot of Claremont.
you're going to hear a lot of Claremont tonight, because a lot of the stories that we've gotten between X-Men the animated series and X-Men '97 were adapted from the
From
Claremont
Claremont
material.
Comics. Yep,
Um, but a lot of X-Men '97 also takes from what Brian Michael Bendis and Matt Fraction did with House of M and the
yep,
Decimation era. We've also got other stuff like it takes from New X-Men,
mhm,
and even takes from the current era that's just about to end, the Krakoa era.
yep.
And we'll get into some of those in a little bit, because one of the things that I do want to talk about are some of the influences and some of the stories that we saw get adapted and saw tidbits from. But I also want to talk about some of the stories that we could see in season
In
two,
through. Yep, season two.
uh,
Yep.
because there's a lot there. So um, season two is in post production now.
Yes.
So if you are, so hopefully we don't wait too much longer. I'm hoping, I'm hoping we get it by the end of the year, if not early next year. Uh,
Yeah, I have a feeling we're probably gonna get it maybe next year. I'm thinking. I'm thinking
I
early next year.
I would love it though if Disney just said, "Hey, you guys are getting 2 seasons in a year."
It would be awesome if they
It
did
would be.
that. Like, it would be amazing to get it
It
like
would be.
in November, December, and it just drops. And it's
Uh,
like, oh,
especially like in those like doldrum fall winter months.
yeah,
Yeah. Um so I would love to see it, but they're in post production for season 2. They got greenlit for 3. And I'm hoping they greenlight it for more,
yeah.
because I mean these stories are incredible. So let's dive into here. And we're going to talk about the season, some of our favorite episodes, some of our favorite moments. I don't think there was a single thing, Mandy, that you and I disliked.
I didn't dislike a single thing of this series.
Yeah.
Every episode was good. Um, yeah, I don't even think there was a weak episode really in this
I,
series.
I, I mean, to me, the weakest I'm using air quotes because
Yeah,
all of these episodes are solid.
solid.
Um, the weakest one for me was probably the Motendo one with Jubilee and Sunspot in the video game,
Yes, I would say yeah. That's probably the weakest one. Is that episode? Yeah.
because part of me thinks that Life Death Part 1 kind of overshadows what happens in Motendo.
It does. It really does overshadow it because the events in that is more about what's going on in the full story of the season,
Yeah.
while that episode is kind of like almost like a bottle episode in a way, you
It
know?
it is, but it establishes something late. The You're talking with Jubilee and Sunspot.
Yeah,
It kind of establishes that conflict that we get later on.
later on. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So I wouldn't really call it. I get where you're coming from with it being a bottle episode.
Yeah,
Um, but like you could have had them really bond in any sort of way and have it not be
exactly.
video games.
Yeah. You could have had them bond in any sort of mission or whatever.
Yeah. Um, but we're getting ahead of ourselves here.
Yeah.
Uh, we kick things off with "To Me, My X-Men," which is the quote unquote pilot, aka season premiere, because honestly, I think of this as pretty much a this is to me season 6 of X-Men.
Pretty much, yeah. It picks up where it left off.
Yeah, it's like a few months after it left
Yeah.
off.
Mhm.
Because Professor Xavier is gone.
Yeah,
Um,
presumed
he
dead. Yeah.
he's presumed dead, but he left the planet
Mhm.
to go be with his lady friend,
His lady friend,
uh
yes.
Lalandra,
Lilandra, I think, yeah.
yeah, of the Shi'ar Empire,
Yep.
which the Shi'ar Empire are not only big in X-Men, but they are big in Marvel in general.
Yeah, they're aren't they big in Guardians of the Galaxy too, as well?
So in the comics, yes.
In the comics, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, because the Shi'ar are at war with the Kree.
Yeah, with the Kree, yep.
Um, and the Kree are at war with the Skrulls.
Yes. Everybody's at war with one another.
In the cosmic side, yes.
Yes.
And meanwhile, like the Inhumans are sitting back eating their popcorn.
Yeah, just
Um,
watching.
yeah, especially Black Bolt.
Yep.
Until he needs to get involved.
Yeah.
But that's War of Kings, which there is an X-Men story in War of Kings
Mhm.
because you have an X-Men team in space with Havoc,
Yeah.
Polaris, Xavier's there,
Yep.
and because they're going after Vulcan, who is spoiler alert, the third Summers brother. Um,
Yes. The third Summers brother, yes.
yeah, and he ends up taking over the Shi'ar Empire at one point.
Mhm.
Um, and in that comic, in that event, you get Havoc and the X-Men team that are there meeting up with Corsair and his pirates. And
Yep.
if you're unfamiliar with who Corsair is the Summers dad. He's
Yes.
Scott, Alex's and Gabriel's dad. Um, so yeah, it's wild.
It gets wild in those parts, yes.
Yeah. Um, the X-Men is a giant soap opera,
It
in
is.
the best way possible. Uh, I think it's the best soap opera ever.
It is the
Um,
best soap opera
yeah,
ever. I mean,
you've
its whole plot and the how each character gets tangled with one another
oh yeah,
somehow. It really is a
yeah.
soap opera. It's like a
It's
science fiction superhero soap opera.
it absolutely. It is a sci-fi superhero soap opera. Um, I kind of wish we had some. Well, we kind of get some telenovela vibes at the
Yes, very
same
much
time.
so.
Um, I'm
Very
just
much
gonna
so.
let you deal with that as you wish, people at home. But anyway, so to me, my X-Men is the pilot, and you have Scott actually running the team right now,
Yes.
and you kind of have a little bit of a difference in opinion between Scott and Storm. Uh,
Yeah.
they are trying to figure out who is best suited to lead the team.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then on top of that, uh, Jean is pregnant.
Pregnant, very
Yeah,
pregnant.
very, very pregnant.
Yes.
Um, and and it's really cool. It's
It's really cool. It's establishing a lot, and I kinda like how Scott right now, even though he's been trained by Xavier and everything, he still doesn't really know what he wants
mm-mm,
in his life.
I agree.
Mhm,
I think so. This is I'm gonna say this later, but I'm
mhm.
gonna say this again. This is the Scott I love.
Yes, very much so.
Because this is the Scott that is in a reluctant leader position,
Mhm.
where he's trying to live up to the expectations that Charles has
Has
set,
left. Yep.
but he's also trying to forge his own path.
Yep.
Forge.
Forge, yes.
um, and this leads to not only I don't want to say it's a schism in the X-Men because it
Yeah,
really
because it's not
isn't.
really a schism. No, it's more
No.
of like differences of opinions of how
Yeah.
things should be.
Yeah, and then that leads them to a snafu,
Mhm.
which sets up the rest of the episode,
That's right.
um, because they have to rescue Sunspot
Yeah.
from the Friends of Humanity
Yes.
because that's not a hate group
Oh,
at
yeah,
all.
that's totally not a hate group at all, yeah,
No.
this
Um, did you like the Mega Man cannons, by the
Oh
way?
my god, I love the Mega Man cannons. I was like, "Oh my god, look at that."
Um, and then once Sunspot gets involved,
Yes.
and then you see that Sentinel Tech is involved with the Friends of
Sentinel Tech
Humanity.
is involved with the Sons of Humanity, yeah, and I was just like, "Ooh, this is getting really interesting," you know?
And then they move to confront Bolivar Trask
Yep.
in the desert,
Mhm.
essentially. Which I got to tell you, when the Blackbird gets shot down, and does it get shot down?
I think he gets shot down, yeah.
Yeah. It
Yeah,
gets
he gets
shot
shot
down,
down. Yeah.
and then Cyclops comes just flying out of it, and then uses his optic blast to
Oh,
slow
yes.
himself to
To
land.
slow himself to land. That was so amazing watching that. I was just like, "Oh."
It was so badass. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
so
And it
badass.
just proves what all his optic blast can do. It can do so many cool
It
things.
it can,
Yep.
but we're gonna get to something here real quick, um, because it's coming. So you have all of them land, and then Cyclops says, "To me, my X-Men," and
Yep.
then they confront Bolivar Trask, who has the Master Mold, which is a big daddy Sentinel that
Daddy
makes
Sentinel.
itty bitty
Yes.
Sentinels.
Yes.
Um, and so like they have to fight the Sentinels while also trying to stop Trask.
Yep.
And this is one of my favorite scenes in the whole thing because we have different levels of mutant powers, right?
Yeah.
I heard some of my favorite words ever to come out of a comic in this episode. And it's when as Cyclops tells Storm to do her thing, and Storm conjures up this storm,
Yeah.
and you hear the Sentinel say, "Omega level threat detected,"
Yes. Omega level threat detected. Yes.
and I fist pumped because it was just so awesome to hear that.
Yes. Right
And
out of the comics. It was like,
yes,
oh.
and what that means is that if you're unfamiliar, and I'm sorry if I'm talking way too much, Mandy. I am
No,
so
no, no.
sorry if
Go
I'm talking
ahead.
way too
Go
much.
ahead. Go.
Um, it means that uh the mutants have different
Isn't it
power
like the
levels.
highest tier?
Yes, Omega
Yeah.
level is the highest tier.
Yeah.
So Magneto's considered Omega level.
Xavier,
Um,
right?
Xavier is considered Omega level. Jean is considered Omega level.
Storm.
Storm is considered Omega level. And I have to look at who the others are, but there's like a handful of
It's
them.
not Wolverine, right? No.
No, Wolverine's not considered Omega level.
Okay. Yeah, I can't remember
Even
the
though the
other ones.
healing factor helps.
Yeah.
Hey, Zach. Even though the healing factor helps,
Mhm.
it's not like he's not Omega level. But let's talk about Wolverine real quick because he has one of the
Yes.
most badass moments.
Oh, yeah. Oh my
Him and
gosh.
Gambit have one of the
Him
most
and
badass
Gambit
moments.
have such a badass moment in this with the oh, with the
When,
cl
yeah, go.
isn't it with the claws when he turns
Yes,
yes, and he
yes.
powers up Wolverine's claws and, like, sends him fly oh,
They
it was
do
so
the fastball
awesome.
special.
Yes, it was
Yeah,
so amazing to see that, and I was like,
yeah.
"This is the team ups I wanna see in the X-Men, where
Hmm.
they combine powers and do
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
like that." Like, it's like
but, like,
Oh,
that's all in the comics too,
yeah,
like, you have to if you've never read an X-Men comic, like, now is the time to jump on board.
on board.
Um, hold on, do I yes, 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 yes. Um, I also highly recommend, like, if you are looking for there goes a bunch of Star Wars comics. I am going to organize this here
But
soon.
that's the thing that was so cool to see in the animated series that we got to see
Yeah.
with these episodes is finally this, like, combo that we get to see of the
Yeah.
powers, which you see in the comics. You see them
Mhm.
combining stuff and doing these
There it
combos,
is.
and to finally
So
see it on screen is just incredible.
yeah, so I'm just gonna plug this real quick, and then
Mhm.
we'll get back into it. If you are looking for for a modern X-Men run, this is where you want to go. This is Jonathan Hickman's X-Men.
Yes.
This is the start. Well, technically, well, no, House and Powers of X is the start of the Krakoa era. This is the continuation of it.
Mhm.
Highly recommend this. This is it's so damn good, so damn good. Um, because I've got another thing here real quick.
Mhm.
Um, hold on. I got to
Okay.
get up for this.
Okay, you
So,
gotta get up for this one.
yeah, yeah. Hold on. Hold
Let's
on.
see what the other one
I'm
is.
still here. I'm still here. Well, you know what the other one is.
Oh, yes, I do.
Yeah. Hold on.
We gotta get these comics out. Oh, but yes, so many cool
Okay.
scenes in
I
this
am
one.
back.
Oh,
I am back.
okay.
There goes Nubs. I don't care. Um I am all over the place here. Uh Real quick. You can also get the X-Men the Animated Series
Yes!
adaptations
The
omnibus,
omnibus. Yes.
which this is awesome.
God, I still need to get that. I still need to purchase that
Yes, you do.
myself.
Um,
Yes.
that I got uh Cal Dodd to
Ooh,
autograph.
amazing.
Yeah,
Wolverine.
yeah. One of my favorites meets that I've ever
Mhm.
done. So anyway, I'm out of breath real quick. I apologize.
That's
Um,
okay. That's okay.
so we get to see that, and it's really cool. Like the combination, like seeing the fastball special,
Mhm.
seeing just the X-Men doing their thing.
Together as a team
Yes,
is really
together
great to
as a
see.
team. Yeah, awesome. And then we go into loved how they brought back the series. So many deep connections. Well, of course, there's a lot of deep connections.
Yeah, and that's
um,
what's great about the X-Men is and this is what I kinda hope Disney does when they finally decide to
excuse
do a
me.
live action X-Men film. I
Yeah,
kinda want an established team already, so you have those bonds
yeah.
of
Like,
the relationships between them.
okay, real quick, if you want to talk about that real quick,
Yeah.
what team would you rather see? Would you rather see blue, or would you rather see gold, or would you like a combination of both?
I mean, maybe a combo of both would be cool, but I mean, I think you
You
gotta
want
go with
purple?
your you know, you gotta go with your standard to me personally, you gotta go with your standard of, like, Cyclops, Jean, Storm,
Yeah,
them in the
yeah.
team. And then you could have, like, a whole mixture of different characters. Of course, Wolverine.
Well,
Um,
yeah, but like if you're gonna do a mixture, like you should bring in Nightcrawler and Colossus and
Nightcrawler,
all them.
Colossus, yeah. I mean, it's but I really want an established team. I don't want, like, a
Yeah.
new team because I want those relationships already built that we can see,
Well,
that.
I mean, especially like if you for the first movie, yes, give me an
Yeah,
established team, but for like the second movie, start setting up the New Mutants. Like
you
start
could start
setting up
setting up the
like
mutants,
yeah,
yeah. I mean,
yeah,
you could set up Jubilee,
the Generation X team. Like you
yeah,
can set that up. Yeah.
Mhm,
Which we'll get to all that stuff here
yeah,
in a minute. So yeah, that was just episode 1. Episode
yes.
2, we get pretty much an adaptation of either I believe it's Extinction Agenda or Executioner's Song.
I can't remember. I think it's
Let me see here.
Extinction.
So,
That's the whole Madeline Pryor storyline, right?
well, we're getting there.
We're
So,
getting there, okay.
the bulk of that one was the Magneto trial.
Ah,
So
yeah, the Magneto trial,
that's
yes, yes.
that's Uncanny 200.
Yeah, introducing Magneto in this way was really cool,
Yeah.
I thought. He's
Yeah.
also because he thinks Charles is dead, so he's way
Yeah.
more, like,
Well,
melancholy,
there is
you know?
that because episode 1 ends on a cliffhanger
Yes.
with Magneto saying, "Hey, Charles left me everything.
Yeah,
You all
Charles
work
left
for
me
me
a
now."
yeah,
Um and so yeah, so like they had to do that. But yeah,
yeah,
so it's more X-Men 200.
mhm.
And then we get Storm losing her powers is from X-Men 185 or Uncanny X-Men
God, when
185.
she lost her powers, I was devastated because you just see the fear in Storm's
Yeah.
eyes when that happens, like, she's like she doesn't know who she is anymore almost.
Yeah. So,
Mhm,
Uncanny X-Men 185, this I'll just tell you what the description is. And I believe I read this on Marvel Unlimited when I still had Marvel Unlimited.
mhm.
There's so many freaking comic readers nowadays. It's crazy.
It's crazy, yeah, there's so many of them.
Um, in Uncanny X-Men 185, Rogue and Storm are trying to save a boat after Rogue kind of caused the boat to be in danger in the first place.
Okay.
After she had absorbed Storm's powers.
Ah, okay.
Um, and then at that point, Henry Peter Gyrick has a neutralizer that Forge designed, and
Mm,
he's
yes.
trying to take powers from Rogue, but he misses and he hits Storm.
Storm.
Uh, so we get that in a way, but this
In
is
a
like with
way.
the Executioner,
That's with the
um,
executioner, yep.
who's a member of the Friends of Humanity.
Humanity.
uh, I'm also going to say this real quick. There are a lot of mutant hate groups in the X Men.
Oh, there's a lot of them, yeah, and you see it a lot throughout all of the X-Men theme are just these hate groups
Yeah,
that form up.
yeah. So I'm gonna, so we're gonna throw a few of these hate groups at you, like as this goes on.
Yes, because there's
But the
so many of them.
Yeah, but the big one is the Friends of Humanity.
The Friends of
Um,
Humanity, yep.
During this as well, Jean gives birth,
Yes, she gives birth,
which
and
I thought,
Rogue but
huh?
I love that scene because Rogue absorbs the knowledge from the
Yeah,
doctor.
I was just about to say that. Uh, it's one of the best bits
Yeah.
in the show, because like the doctor's like, oh, you're one of them. I'm
You're
not
one of
gonna.
them, I'm not doing it, and then
Yeah, I'm not helping you. And then Jean's just like, hey, Rogue, you you got to help me out here.
yeah, you gotta help me out. And Rogue's like, "Okay, I'll touch him and get the
Yeah,
knowledge from
yeah. Rogue touches him and absorbs the knowledge on how to deliver a
deliver a
baby.
baby." Yes.
Um, which I love. I love
And
because
Rogue
it
does it successfully. She does a really good
she,
job.
she does.
Yeah.
Um, but I will say this: like, it was nice to see Rogue using her power without absorbing somebody else's power.
Yes, it was interesting to see her do something kind of unique like that, like to
Yeah,
actually take knowledge from
yeah.
somebody else and use it, and then she was able to have it.
And
So that was kind of cool to
I
see that
think
she
she
could do that
did
with
that.
normal humans, you know?
Yeah, I think she did that, like, maybe once or twice in the original animated series too, I think.
Yeah, and it's a
Uh,
really cool little power that we don't see her use as
yeah,
often, using
yeah,
that for different skills.
yeah, that's true. So, Cyclops ends up, arriving for the birth of his child,
Yes,
um, while Magneto is pretty much telling the UN, "Hey, Charles left me with his legacy, and I'm going to try to
to
live up
try to
to
live up
it."
to it. Yeah, and I'm gonna try to follow his dream, you know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
while kind of threatening the UN.
While kind of threatening them, kind of, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so Jean has her baby, and it's one Nathan Christopher Summers,
Summers, yes,
who will, spoiler alert, if you
yes.
don't
If
know,
you don't know, yes, spoiler
he will
alert,
become Cable.
he will become Cable. Yeah.
Yes, who's from the future.
Yes.
Um, yeah, and then the episode ends with all of them in the X Mansion, and somebody comes barging through the
The
door
door. Yeah, somebody comes barging through the door, and that's how we're left.
who may or may not look like Jean Grey.
Gray, yes.
And so this sets up one of
Madeline
my
Pryor's story,
favorite.
which is one of
Yes,
my favorite comic stories, is this
yes.
whole sequence. Yep.
I love Inferno a lot.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's such a good storyline, and
it
to
is.
see it, in animation, to kind of
Mhm.
finally view that and the way they told it, it's so well done.
So real quick, because like I feel like, and this is like a small gripe.
Yeah,
I feel like the whole Inferno story should have been for the entire season.
I agree. I think we shouldn't have seen Jean until toward the end, the real Jean.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I think the Inferno story we should have gotten for the whole season.
yeah,
However, I will say this: they handle this adaptation
very
extremely
well.
well.
Very
Yeah.
well, yeah.
Um.
I wish it had been spread out a lot longer, that we wouldn't have
Oh
seen the
yeah.
real Jean until later
Yeah.
and
Me
been
too.
like, "Oh, okay, this is going on."
Yeah.
So,
Me too.
mhm,
Um. So for those of you that don't know, Inferno. So there's actually two Inferno stories because Jonathan Hickman wrote one for the Krakoa era that involves Moira McTaggart
yeah,
instead. Um, and I don't think it has anything to do with demons or anything.
no.
Um, and then you have the one from the 80s, which Inferno in the 80s was not just an X-Men event, it was a Marvel spanning
Yeah.
event.
It was a major Marvel event, yeah.
Um, because like the Avengers were involved, Cable was
Mhm.
involved, Fantastic Four was involved,
Wars Vault, yeah.
Daredevil was involved. So like you and Daredevil's like fighting demonic vacuum cleaners in Hell's
Yeah.
Kitchen. Um,
That's hilarious.
in this story, it's
Daredevil,
great. It's great.
demons.
Um, yeah, it's great. And this okay, so this takes place after Dark Phoenix Saga.
Yeah.
Inferno does. I'm just gonna explain
Which
it real quick.
which is interesting because it's also referenced in the X-Men 97 series, that
Yeah,
it's they mention references to the Dark Phoenix era. So this had
yeah,
already happened afterwards. So it's very similar to the timeline.
yeah. Which I'm really happy that they actually did it.
Yeah.
Um, so this clone of Jean, um, ends up like she's a clone of Jean Grey that was created by Mr. Sinister.
Yes.
However, she is manipulated a lot
By
by Sinister.
Sinister. Yeah.
Yeah,
He basically can control her mind and
yeah.
manipulate it very much so, yeah.
And she goes crazy
Yep.
in this adaptation, I should say. I mean, even in the original Inferno, she went crazy because Scott decided to leave her to go try to do something with the real Jean Grey.
Yeah, the real Jean Grey. Yep.
And at that point, Scott and Madeline were actually living in Alaska with Cable.
Yeah. Well, because technically he's married to
Yeah,
Madeline,
yeah,
technically,
he was married to Madeline.
Yeah, he's married to Madeline. Cable is Madeline's kid.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, so yeah, it's soap opera,
Soap
soap
opera.
opera.
Complicated
Um,
soap opera. Yeah.
but this one happens to deal with demons and Madeline Pryor being the Goblin Queen.
Yeah.
Um, but because Madeline didn't like what Scott did in the comics, she starts going crazy
Yeah.
and she makes a deal with the devil to try to get her life back.
that she wants so desperately to have.
Yeah. And then she becomes the Goblin Queen,
The
and
Goblin Queen. Yep.
that's what we see in this is
In
her
this.
facing Sinister, but she's so corrupt by Sinister that she becomes the Goblin Queen.
Hmm.
Um, and it's up to Scott to try to talk her down.
Yeah.
Um, and eventually they do,
Hmm.
and they take down Sinister after Sinister kidnaps Cable.
Yes.
Uh,
After he kidnaps poor little baby Nathan. Yep.
yes. And then Nathan is infected with the techno organic virus.
Yes.
And the only way for him to survive is for
Is to
Bishop.
send him Bishop to send him to the future where they have a cure.
Yeah, exactly.
So Bishop has to take Nathan to the future.
Yeah, yes. All while Scott is trying to figure out who he's in love with.
Who's he in love with? I mean, is he in love with Madeline or is he in love with Jean?
And we're gonna get to that here in a
Yeah,
minute
we're gonna get
too,
to.
because there's some crap that happens with that.
Yeah,
Um, Jean and Madeline come to terms.
come to terms. They basically kind of think of themselves in a way, kind of like sisters in a way,
Yeah,
kind of. Yeah,
yeah,
and
and
they come to
then
terms because Jean realizes it's not Madeline's fault, and Madeline realizes it's not Jean's fault for all the
yeah,
crap they've been through.
and they talk about how their lives are the same and like
Yeah,
they're pretty
they
much
have the
one.
same. Yeah, and they're pretty much one because they have all the same memories. Because Madeline
Yeah,
says something about like, "Are those memories mine or yours?" You
yeah,
know, and
yeah. And then Madeline ends up calling herself Madeline, and
mm,
then she ends up uh, going or
going
traveling to
to
Genosha.
Genosha. She goes
Yeah,
to Genosha. Yep.
yeah. Um, and that's episode 3.
Yeah, and that's the soap opera episode. That is the pure soap opera episode.
I mean, it's all soap opera.
Yes,
Um, so then in episode 4 we get I'm just gonna touch on this one real
that's the
quick.
Jubilee and Sunspot one, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so that one is Motendo,
Motendo. Yep.
because that one deals with Mojo and Mojo World. And I mean, that was a fun little adventure to establish a relationship between
Yeah,
Diego and Jubilee.
yeah. It really starts that relationship between the two, and I think it also expands for the newer audiences who didn't watch the original X-Men more of Jubilee's character.
Yeah, yeah,
So, because if you hadn't watched the original, you would have had, not known who Jubilee was.
yeah.
So, this episode kind of establishes her character, I think, a lot more.
Um, the one thing that I love from that short episode, because this was like a split episode.
Yeah, it was like a split
Um,
episode. Yeah.
the one thing I love from it is the game they're playing is pretty much reliving the events of the original X-Men animated series, and
Yes,
also
it is
paying homage to the original X-Men arcade game.
arcade. It's like a combination. It's like they're playing the X-Men arcade game, but of this series
Yeah,
of X-Men. So it's
yeah.
really cool.
It was really funny to the Magneto boss fight
Oh yes, the Magneto boss fight.
where Jubilee is like, we just gotta time his attacks.
We just gotta
That way
time
we
his
can,
attacks. That way we
that way we can go in and attack him. Um, yeah, that one was really funny. But
Yep.
I mean, the thing that I liked about that was Jubilee meeting older Jubilee
Yes.
and really finally realizing like who she is.
Who she is and who she can become.
Yeah. So that to me was cool. And then we get to Life Death, which is the first of a two-parter
It's the first
in
of a two-parter. Yep.
in which Forge is working on a cure
For
for,
Storm.
yeah, for Storm to get her powers back.
Powers back. Yeah.
Uh, and then that ends up turning into an adventure in and of itself,
Yeah, that becomes an adventure in and on itself. It really does.
that may or may not deal with a demonic, mythical Indian folklore bird.
Folklore. Yeah, bird like
Yeah,
moth like thing. Yeah.
it was
Um
weird.
It was weird, and then Forge gets bitten by that thing,
Yeah, he gets
and then
poisoned.
he gets poisoned, and then Storm has to try to figure out, "How what do I do to fix this?"
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
But it
Um,
again, I like that episode because, again, we really get to focus on Storm as a
mhm,
person, you know?
yeah. Um, and then there's a budding romance between her and Forge.
And Forge, yes.
Yeah. Um, and I love hearing more about Forge's background.
Yeah.
And like a lot of people have asked me, like even my wife was like, "Well, what's his ability?" And I was like, "Think of him as a mutant Tony Stark
He is. He's a mutant Tony Stark.
who
That's a
can
good way to explain his
build
powers.
any type of
He's
weapon."
saying he can build anything.
Yeah. Um, and then like I liked seeing the photo of him with like a strong guy
Yes.
and a few of those other characters.
I also liked, Storm often thinking of memories of her relationship with Jean and the friendship they
Yes.
had, so that was
Yes.
nice to see as well because
Hmm.
I don't think that get I don't think that gets explored enough, especially in the live action movies. You don't really get to see
No.
that connection
No.
like you do in the comics.
No. You really don't. You
Like, in
you
the
really
comics,
don't.
they're pretty much inseparable. They're, like,
Hmm.
always together.
Yeah, they're sisters.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so that ends on the cliffhanger with
Yep,
Forge being bit.
with Forge being
You could
bit. Yep,
respect Jubilee's growth, and Forge was great. The sisterhood connection. Yeah.
yep.
Let me see here. What else? So then we move on to episode 5.
Yeah, which is
Uh,
part 2.
no, no,
No.
part two didn't happen until right before the
Oh, that's
finale.
right. That doesn't
Yeah,
happen until right before the finale. That's right. Okay, so
yeah.
we're at
Um,
episode 5, which is that
Genosha.
Genosha? That's
Yeah,
Genosha, yeah.
yeah.
That episode, oh my god. First things first, did you cry?
I did.
I did. I cried
This
this
episode
movie.
is called "Remember It."
Yeah,
So Life Death Part 2 is the episode after Remember It. So Life
remember it.
Death Part 2 is episode 6. Um, so the X-Men send a team of people to Genosha because the UN is finally recognizing
Recognizing
Genosha,
Genosha as a
yeah,
country.
as a country and are finally recognizing mutants as um,
People.
yeah, and
As people, yep.
members of humanity and members of the global
And
community.
Rogue is sent and Gambit
It's Rogue, Gambit, and Magneto.
and Magneto. Yep.
Um, and they meet with the United States ambassadors to the UN.
Yep.
And then they also meet with Madeline, who is one of the ambassadors for Genosha.
And
Uh,
Nightcrawler.
Yes, and Nightcrawler. It was great to see Kurt
Oh, it was
again.
great to see
Um,
Kurt.
and I love how he like pops up and just hugs Rogue. Like he just
Yes, I
bamps
love
and
that.
hugs
He
her.
just hugs her. He's just so
Yeah.
excited to see her. And I was just like, oh,
Yes.
Nightcrawler.
And so this is also where we get kind of we get a little bit of a Krakoa Easter egg here with we get this council, right,
Yeah.
for
Mm-hmm.
Genosha,
For
and on that
Genosha.
council are both Emma Frost and Sebastian Shaw.
Yeah. Sebastian Shaw and Emma Frost are in this council.
And if they are most notably from the Hellfire Club,
Yes.
which are a group of villains, but Emma's been Emma's been a good guy for a
So,
while now.
well, Emma goes back and forth. Sometimes she's a
Yeah,
villain, sometimes she's the good guy, you know? So
yeah.
she's back and forth.
During the Decimation era, she spent a lot of time with Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, which we'll get to what all that is here in a little bit. I kind of just want to run through these and then we'll
Yeah.
get to some more comic stuff. Um, that so they're doing this party where the
They're
UN
basically
is,
celebrating,
yeah,
everything and
yeah, they're celebrating that the UN is recognizing that Genosha's a country, and then you're seeing Magneto and Rogue getting really close, which alludes
and
to
then
a
you
couple of
see
other things.
poor Remy sad in
Mhm.
the background.
Yeah. Yeah, Remy
Yeah.
realizes that he's not getting the girl right now.
No, he realizes he's not getting to the girl and he's hurt
And then,
and
um but Rogue actually explains why she and Magneto can touch,
yes,
and it's because of Magneto doing something with her electromagnetic field.
field. Yes.
So they're able to touch.
Mhm.
It's a soap opera,
It's a soap opera, yes. It's a soap opera. Yeah, poor
as
Remy
as the
heartbroken.
X-Men turn,
You have
yes.
Rogue who's like in this love triangle.
Mhm. Yeah. So that alludes to two different stories. There's one where Rogue and Magneto spend some time in the Savage Land, which
Yes,
I believe is in Antarctica.
I think so.
Yes. And then it alludes to that, but it also alludes to Age of Apocalypse, which was a big story that took place in an alternate timeline
Yeah,
where Rogue and Magneto were together.
yeah,
And in this timeline, Apocalypse has taken over the world, and yeah, there's fun stuff there.
yeah.
Read Age of Apocalypse, please read it.
Excellent
It's
comic
amazing.
series. Yes,
Yes,
excellent.
it's amazing. Um, the party gets attacked. Genosha gets attacked by these
Genosha,
sentinels,
Sentinels.
including a big three-headed one.
Yes.
And
We
so,
see
yeah,
Genosha basically get pulverized. Like
uh,
it's
yeah, this is the X-Men equivalent of like a 9/11 or a Pearl Harbor.
yes, very much so. It
Yeah,
is just devastating. All the death and destruction of
yeah,
Genosha.
yeah. Um, Sacrifices are made. Magneto
Yep.
sacrifices himself to save some children.
Remy
Um, and
sacrifices
then
himself.
yes, and
Hmm.
Remy sacrifices himself. He goes in for the kill on on the giant sentinel, and he gets stabbed. But
Yes,
he gets the last laugh.
he does.
Uh, and he says, "My name is Gambit. Remember it." And then uses his kinetic energy to overload the sentinel and blow it up.
Yeah, doesn't he say, "My name is Gambit, remember me, mon ami," or something like that?
This is way before that joke. Um, but she was asking about a joke from the finale.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, so Remy says, my name is Gambit, Monami, or remember me, or remember it,
Yeah,
or something like
yep,
that. And then he ends up sacrificing himself,
yes.
and the episode ends with Rogue holding him in her arms,
Arms,
and she says, "I can't feel you."
I can't feel you, and that's how it ends. And even
Yeah,
the music at the end credits is so sad. It's not the usual
yeah,
theme, it's just, because
yeah.
she says, "I can't feel you."
Hmm.
And it's just, and I
Yeah,
cried.
it was
I
amazing.
cried so much at that minute.
Yeah,
At that
it was
scene.
amazing. I will say this, um, Gambit's coming back,
Yes,
so
he is coming
you
back.
don't have to
Yes,
worry about that. Gambit is coming back, like
he
all
is
good
coming
comic
back.
book
Like all
characters.
comic book characters, he's going to come back from the
Yes,
dead. He's
yes,
not going to
he comes
permanently
back.
be dead.
Um,
But
yeah.
his
So,
death had such an impact, though. It was
oh, it
so
did,
well done.
and so this isn't really a spoiler. I will say this: I love that he's not in the rest of the season.
Yes, they kept him dead for the whole rest of the season.
Yeah. Um,
But I think that's good because it feels like it's the death is final in a way how they've done it because he
yeah.
hasn't come back yet.
Your buddy said he won't watch if Gambit's not coming back. Well, it's your buddy's loss. That's all I'm gonna
Yeah,
say.
he's gonna
Um,
come back, I think.
he's coming back.
It's just
Um,
I like how they did it that he hasn't come back yet.
yes.
We're through
So
this season and he's still
yeah,
gone.
yeah. So then we get to Life Death Part Two, which is a very Charles heavy episode.
Very
Uh,
much Charles heavy episode.
Um, and in that we have Charles trying to prove himself to Lalandra and the Shi'ar Empire.
Vampire.
Um,
That he's the good to be the new husband.
mhm.
Yeah.
So I can let him know. No, don't let him know. Just let him be on pins and needles, dude. Like, don't tell him anything. Just tell him to watch the damn show. When it when it comes out for season two. Um, yeah, so we get that, and then while that's going on, we have a reporter who shows up to the X-Men mansion
Yes.
trying to talk about
What's
you
happened
know,
at Genosha?
well, she find did she find out about Genosha and then come over, or did Genosha
I thought Genosha happened and that's why she was over. Is that it?
it's something that Genosha either
Something.
happens before or after she gets
Yeah,
there.
something about
Uh,
something. Yeah,
a
during that.
lot of
Yeah.
it's running together. I should have took
Yeah.
notes about that one. Um, but we find out that Beast and her and the reporter may or may not have a relationship.
Yeah. They have a thing going on. They've got a
Yes.
thing going.
Um, and that's Trish Tilby.
Yes.
And in the comics, they've actually had a thing going on for a
Yeah.
long time too. Um, while that's going on, fun with Storm and Forge is continuing.
Yes.
With Storm racing to find a cure for the poison that
Is in
hit
the
Forge.
forge, and she
Uh,
finds out it's from a certain flower, right? Yes.
the antidote is a certain flower that
Flower. Hmm.
grows in a certain part of a dark mine that only like the smallest people can shimmy through,
Yes.
and it's like a pitch black thing. And that's when Storm's powers reawaken because she's also confronted by the demon bird
Bird
thingy.
thingy. Yeah.
Um,
The demon bird thingy. Yeah.
which I
And
will
that's
say that that bird is scary looking.
it is. That bird is terrifying.
It
And
is a demon bird thingy.
it's a demon bird like moth thing.
Yeah, it's like a demon bird moth thing.
Yeah.
It's like Man Bear Pig.
Yeah.
It's Man Bear Pig. No, stupid. It's Man Bear Pig. What is that? No, Storm, stupid. It's Man Bear Pig. Um,
But Storm gets her powers back and she gets an epic new outfit.
yes, Storm gets a so I like to call this episode how Storm got her groove back.
Yes, very much so.
Because that's essentially what it is.
Yes.
Um, so she gets her powers back, she saves Forge,
Yep.
and then Charles ends up coming back to Earth, and well, he leaves the Shi'ar Empire because he realizes that some crap has gone down on Earth in his
Earth. That's
absence.
really bad. A lot of
Yeah,
bad crap has happened while he's been
and
gone.
he needs to get back.
He needs to get back.
Um, so there was that. Then we get episode 7, which is called Bright Eyes. And this is Rogue channeling her her inner Liam Neeson from Taken.
Yes, very much so. Channeling her Liam Neeson from Taken. She's
Um,
like on the warpath right now.
she really is.
Yeah, she really
Um,
is. And we
but
just see how deadly and destructible Rogue can be. Like,
yes, but I will say this: two of the best cameos in the show are in this
oh, yes,
episode.
they are.
So Rogue initially confronts Thunderbolt Ross
Yes,
in this underground prison, asking where Bolivar Trask is,
yes.
because she wants to put a stop to him once and for all because of the whole Sentinel attack.
On Sentinel attack and killing Gambit and everything.
Yeah, on Genosha.
Hmm.
While that's going on, there's a little bit where Cyclops and Jean and a few X-Men have traveled to Genosha to help clean up and try
And
to,
search for survivors and
yeah.
stuff like that. Hmm.
In which we get to see Strong Guy from X Factor, which I was really happy about.
And we also got to see that Emma Frost survived, right? Yes,
Yes, Emma
yes.
survived. Emma
Emma
survived.
survived. Yep.
And she hardened to diamond form.
Yes.
And then we also get a cameo or a confrontation between Rogue and Captain
Captain
America,
America. Yes.
which it was so cool to see Cap in that episode.
It was so cool to see Cap in that episode and see him in animated form again.
Hmm
So,
and then Rogue pretty much gives him a giant middle finger by
yes.
tossing his shield like 20 miles away.
Yes, she tosses it 20 miles away and she's like, "Okay, go get it now."
Yeah. And then like she storms off. And then finally they
Yeah, they tr
track Trask to Madripoor,
yeah.
and you find out that Trask isn't who he is, but is.
Yes, he isn't really who he is, kind of
So
thing.
Trask is a sentinel,
He's a
like
sentinel,
a
yes.
hybrid, a
A
human
hybrid
sentinel hybrid,
human hybrid sentinel, yep.
created by Bastion. Uh,
Bastion,
Not
yes.
Bastion from Overwatch, for those of you that are. No, this is Bastion, the X-Men character that's been around forever.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
and
like
his power is really interesting because he almost has, like, telepathy with machines kind of thing.
yeah, they called it like techno telepathy or something like
Techno
that, or
telepathy,
yeah,
yeah.
it was something like that.
Mhm.
And you find out that Bastion's been pulling the strings the whole time,
He's been
and
pulling
Miss
the strings behind Mr. Sinister and
yeah,
everything.
yeah. So then we get to the three-part finale,
Yes.
um, which deals with at the very end of the episode, Charles comes. Oh no, that was in at the end of episode 8. Never mind. Um, so we get the fight, and then we find out Bastion's involved. The X-Men
Bastion's involved.
regroup at the mansion, and then that's when the Bastion and the Sentinels really start to um make things dangerous for
Make
the
things dangerous for the X-Men, yeah.
and that one has some really great fights, especially with Nightcrawler and Wolverine trying to protect Rogue, who is
Yes.
unconscious at this point.
Who's unconscious at this point, and they're trying to protect her so she
Yes.
doesn't get hit by anything, and it's chaos all over.
And one of my favorite bits happens in that whole fight, and it's
Is this
with
when the mansion gets trashed? Yeah.
yes,
Yes,
but
yes.
the lady, or the one Sentinel says to Wolverine, like, you don't have a reason to 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 do this or whatever. And
Yeah.
Wolverine says, "Lady, I got 6 reasons for you right
Yeah,
here."
he goes, "Lady, I got 6 reasons over here."
And
I just love that.
he's got his claws out,
He's got his
and
claws out.
and then Nightcrawler pops up and he says, "9. You have
9.
9."
9
He's
reasons.
got 3 swords.
And he's
One
got 3 swords, and I love it. "No, my
one
friend,
controlled with
you
his
you have
tail.
9, because he goes,
Yes.
9.
9.
9, friend. You have."
Yes. Yes. And one of the swords is being controlled by his tail.
Yes, being controlled by his tail.
It's
Yes,
amazing.
it's amazing.
It's amazing.
It's such an amazing battle scene.
Oh, it is. It is. At that point, at the end of the episode, Charles comes crashing through,
True.
and he pretty much says, "To me, my X-Men,"
Yeah,
and tries to mentally connect everybody.
everybody
Uh,
together.
and it's not at no, Magneto escapes from Bastion because Magneto's been
Yeah,
alive the whole
Magneto
time.
escapes from Bastion, but he's been, like, tortured by
Yeah.
Bastion.
And so Magneto raises Asteroid M,
Yes.
and then pretty much hits the Earth with this giant EMP, or
EMP, which disables the Sentinels, but in the process is gonna destroy the whole world.
yeah, because of Earth's magnetic fields are
Fields
off.
are off.
Um,
And Magneto doesn't care because he's like, "Well, humans are worthless."
yeah, exactly.
No.
Uh, so there's that. Then in episode 9, the X-Men are forming a plan to try to stop both Bastion and
And
Magneto.
Magneto. So they
And
decide they got to split up
yes, and we get Blue Team and Gold Team.
team. Yep.
Um, Gold Team goes for Sinister and Bastion.
Bastion. Blue
Uh,
team goes for Magneto.
yeah, and blue team goes for Magneto. And Charles is on blue team.
Team, yes,
Um,
with
and then
Scott. No,
with
no,
Scott and Wolverine,
yeah.
and
Gold team is
gold team is Storm, Jean,
Jean
Forge,
for and Cable.
Cable, and Morph.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
and
Rogue,
Rogue
Jubilee, and
and
Sunspotter on blue team.
yeah, but Rogue and Sunspot have gone with Magneto before that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right, because
yeah,
Magneto gives them a choice.
yeah.
Uh,
Magneto tells them you can join me or you can die with the humans, one or the other.
yeah,
And those two go with Magneto, and I was like, you idiots.
yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, so all of that happens.
Yes,
And then that episode ends with Charles torturing
Magneto.
Magneto to try to get him
Basically,
to reverse the magnetic field.
basically torturing him or to the point of killing him to save
Yeah.
humanity
And then Magneto gets the upper hand on Charles, but not
because of
until
Scott.
yeah, because of Scott saying, "Hey, by
We got to
because
give the other
Scott's
team more time or
yeah,
something like that. Yeah,
Scott's telling Charles that he needs to give the team more time, and then Charles just doesn't want to listen, and so Wolverine ends up stabbing Magneto, which I thought was brilliant, by the way.
right through the back, right through the back. So you see, that was so cool.
She's not the president. She's the president of the UN.
Yeah,
She's his lackey, and then
she's his
realizes
lackey.
what
Yeah,
she's doing, and realizes that the X-Men are good for the world.
yeah.
Um, because Bastion was trying to have people everywhere.
He was trying to have informants everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so there's all of that.
Yeah,
And
and then we see Magneto with Wolverine turn his magnetic powers onto poor Wolverine and basically like
he rips the adamantium out of
he
Wolverine.
he rips the adamantium out of Wolverine.
Yeah. Which I was really surprised they went there.
Yeah, I mean that was whoa. I was like,
Yeah.
woo.
Yeah.
I was not expecting that scene. I was like,
No. Um
and then we got Cable who's being controlled, who's shooting Jean, trying to shoot at Jean and kill
yeah,
her.
because Mr. Sinister's controlling Cable
Controlling Cable.
due to
Yes.
the techno-organic virus.
Virus.
Um
Yes.
so most of this episode, because I'm looking at some of the stories here online, like I'm looking at some news stuff online just to make sure that
Mhm.
I know what's being adapted and what's not being adapted. Um, and this one is hold on, I
Mhm.
messed up something. This one is adapting more of the Fatal Attractions story,
Okay.
which ends up becoming a precursor to a story called Onslaught.
Onslaught. Okay. Yep. I know Onslaught.
Um, okay, which deals with um, a version of Charles losing his mind to the point where he becomes a bad guy.
Yep. Yep.
A bad guy.
A big guy.
Um, a bit gay. And then so that ends on that cliffhanger, and then we get to the final episode of the season.
The finale. Yes.
Yes, which deals with Charles and Eric trying, or Charles convincing Magneto
Yes.
that he needs to use his power to right the magnetic field on Earth,
Yes.
and then kind of like appealing to Magneto's humanity.
Yes. He basically appeals to the human side of Magneto.
Yeah. Um, and then with that going on, we have a final fight against Bastion and the various
Bastion.
X-Men
Men
as Asteroid M is plummeting to Earth.
to Earth. Yes.
And like the X-Men end up saving the day,
They end up saving the day. Yes.
but a few of them get
Misplaced.
teleported or
Yes.
misplaced to various time periods.
Yes. You have Jean and Scott in the future.
Yes, Jean and Scott are about 3,000 years
Thousand
into the
years into
future.
the future. Yes.
And then the rest of the team are in ancient Egypt.
In ancient Egypt, and of course, we get our glimpse at
Apocalypse.
Apocalypse, who is the
Yes.
first mutant.
Yes, Apocalypse is the first mutant.
Yeah.
And we also get um, we also get to see Cable as a teenager.
Yes.
So we see that Bishop has brought him into the far future, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where Cable is living.
Yes.
And yeah, that is and then Forge is trying to figure out how to get the X-Men back, and we see this poster that is inspired by Days of Future Past, which is
Yes.
X-Men 141, um, which is the Days of Future Past story, which a lot of people talk about Days of Future Past. That's only a two-issue event that
Mm-hmm.
happens in the comics. So it's not weird how they end it. It's not. It happens to X-Men all the time. Like the time
Yeah,
travel's a big thing for
plus
X-Men.
I think they're setting it up for Apocalypse.
They are. They
Yeah.
are. They're not being that loud. Uh,
But they are
they
setting
are.
it up for
Yeah.
Apocalypse. Yep.
They're setting up Apocalypse. They're setting up Age of Apocalypse. So
Yep.
actually, let's actually get to predictions here of the stories that they're going to adapt for season 2. Looks like
Well, definitely Age of Apocalypse.
we're gonna get Blood of Apocalypse,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is a 5-part story that took place in X-Men. This is X-Men now, not Uncanny X-Men, but X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
Back in like the 90s and 2000s, they had all these different X-Men books.
Yeah.
Uncanny X-Men was a flagship title, and X-Men was a flagship title.
Yeah.
Um, so you get Blood of Apocalypse, which is going to be which collects X-Men 182 through 187 from
Mm-hmm.
2006. So it's a 5-part series or 5-part. Um, it's a 5-part story. I shouldn't say series, um, in which Gambit pretty much becomes the one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse
Apocalypse.
to
Yes.
try to reset the timeline
Timeline.
uh,
Yes.
and bring back the mutants that were lost at the end
Yes.
of
At the
House of
end.
M.
So, who do you remember who the other 4 members were? Because I know it was Gambit.
I let me see
I
here.
don't remember who the other 3
Yeah,
were.
here it is. Here it is.
Here it is. Okay.
It
Because that's how Gambit's coming back.
so Gambit was Death and Polaris was Pestilence.
Okay.
But I don't know who the other 2 were.
Okay.
But Gambit and Polaris are big into it.
Yeah, and that's how we're
Um,
gonna get Gambit back, but he's kind of under the control of Apocalypse.
yes. The
Yep.
next one that we're gonna get was actually a mini series back in '94 called "The Adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix," and this actually deals with them and Cable.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh,
That makes sense, especially since they're so far in the future. Yep.
Yes. Then we're going to get Rise of Apocalypse,
Yeah.
which took place in 1996. This was a mini series as well, which is going to deal with it's going to deal with the rise of Apocalypse, or he's an Egyptian known as Insabanur.
Yeah, wasn't he
Um,
worshipped in ancient Egypt
he
originally?
was he was
Yep.
after
Mhm.
his powers
Yeah.
set up. Um, excuse me. I am so sorry about
Bless you.
that.
Bless you.
Excuse me. So sorry, stream. Um,
Oh,
yeah, I'm so sorry, pickle. Um, so Blood of Apocalypse, or The Rise of Apocalypse, 4-issue miniseries. Um, it depicts Apocalypse's change from despised member of the nomadic tribe to the supervillain we know. Along the way, he encounters Rama Tut, one of the aliases used by the time traveler Kang the Conqueror, giving X-Men 97 a chance for even more likely MCU connection. That was
yeah.
paraphrased
Kang.
from Den of Geek. Um, we also have Wolverine. This would be a 5-issue story collecting Wolverine 76 through 81 back in 1994. This is going to deal with Wolverine not having the adamantium in his body. So we're going to
Skeleton. Yep.
see the bones, actually.
We're gonna see
Uh,
his bones actually come out now, like they did before he
yeah,
got the skeleton.
which is it's a really, really cool story.
Yep.
Um, we're going to get probably an adaptation of X Factor with Forge.
Okay.
It's called The True Path. It is an adaptation. It's X Factor 121 from 1996. Um, and this is it's a Forge heavy story.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, I could also see them doing.
Do you think Madeline Pryor is dead, or do you think she's gonna be back in the second
Oh,
season?
Madeline Pryor's coming back. She's
Yeah, okay.
always she always comes back.
Okay, so I
Um,
think we'll see her again too.
yeah. Thank you. But yeah, we're gonna see. Yeah, we're gonna see Madeline Pryor again. Yeah, Storm. No, didn't Storm get displaced?
Is she with she's
I
not with
thought
Scott and Jean,
no, she's
right?
not with Scott and Jean. No, I think
Maybe
she's with the others.
I think she's with the others in Egypt.
Yeah, if not, she's in present day.
She's in
Um,
present day. Yeah.
I don't remember. I have to watch the finale again. A
Yeah, we
lot
gotta
happened
watch it.
in
Yeah, there was so much that happened in that finale.
the finale. Yeah, so I think so. Like one of the things that I would love to see from the show is I would love to see spin-offs, like animated spin-offs of this show, um, because you could totally do X Factor, especially like when Cyclops and Jean come back.
You could also do like a whole new team, possibly with members like Colossus and stuff like that on it.
Well, there's that. You can do the Generation X story because Jubilee.
Yeah,
Um,
Sunspot.
yeah, like you can do that with Jubilee and Sunspot. Emma Frost could be part of that too.
Mhm.
Um, you can do X Force because you've got both Forge and Bishop there as
Yeah,
well,
you've got those two. Yep.
and even with Cable
Cable.
being involved, you can do X Force with that.
Yep.
Which I would love to see a dark animated version of X Force. I think
That
that
would
would
be
be
really
really
cool.
cool.
Yeah.
Um,
We could see a lot of spin-offs of it.
mhm. If they do it right, like
Mhm.
I would also love to see New Mutants done as
Yes.
well, because I love those characters. Plus, I still haven't really watched the movie, but I heard the movie didn't do those characters justice at all.
Yeah, I've heard
Uh,
they didn't do it justice at all. I have not watched it, but I've heard so many people complain about that movie and how bad
yeah,
it was, so
uh, but it was one of the last Fox X-Men movies.
yes.
But yeah, like there's a lot of there there's a lot where they're going with.
Mhm.
Or there's a lot that they could be adapting, especially from modern day stories as well. Like I
Yes.
have a feeling because we got like a bunch of Avengers stuff in the finale,
Yes.
that could set up an Avengers versus X-Men like adaptation.
Adaptation, yeah.
But like Avengers versus X-Men didn't happen until like the early 2010s.
Exactly, we didn't get those comics until then,
Yeah,
so
but they could still find a way to do it.
yes.
Um, I would also love to see an Alpha Flight spinoff as well because you got to
Mhm.
see them a little bit in the finale. Like I
You
saw
did.
Puck,
Yep,
which I was really happy about. It was also really cool to see Polaris with like Omega Red
yep.
and a few others. So um, a lot there to unpack.
Yeah, we saw a lot of MCU characters in that finale, so
Yeah, but not necessarily like MCU versions of them.
no, but a lot of different Marvel characters in there.
Yeah, yeah, like Daredevil's prominent in the finale.
Yeah, we
Um,
also saw Doctor Strange,
we saw Doctor Strange. Yeah, we
Wanda,
did see Doctor Strange. We saw Wanda.
and
Um,
Quicksilver. Yep.
yeah, we saw Quicksilver. Real quick, before we go though, uh, episode 9 had like my favorite joke or two of my favorite jokes of the season.
Okay.
It was the one where Morph turns into the Hulk
Oh gosh, yes.
and he says, "Morph smash,"
More Smash, yes.
which I absolutely love. And then
That's
the
great.
second one was when Hank takes the Sentinel's hand and says, "What is the sound of one hand clapping?" and slaps the Sentinel in the face with his own hand.
Yes, that was so great. I love that scene.
Yeah, yeah.
There was some
So,
great little jokes throughout, which was great. I love the
mhm.
comedy in it too.
Yeah, there was enough comedy to keep you to keep you happy.
Yes.
Um, but you know, we're there for the serious stories because
Yes.
X-Men actually has some really serious stories.
X-Men is a lot of times really serious. I think the part that breaks it from being serious sometimes is the camaraderie between the
Yeah.
characters.
Oh yeah. Um, but yeah, I love this season. I thought it was amazing. I was really I'll Mandy will tell you, I was skeptical.
You were when it first before it started. Yep.
Yeah, because I was very worried that they were going to um not do a good job with
Yes.
them.
Mhm.
Because X-Men the animated series is very well revered.
It's also got a lot of nostalgia for us as well, so it's
Hmm.
something very close to our hearts growing up with it,
Yeah.
and we didn't
The
want to see it.
morph turning into Jean and telling Wolverine that she loves him. I thought that was I, I saw why he did it. I wouldn't say it was a touching moment.
Maybe Morph
Um,
is in love with Wolverine.
well, I mean, they have said that Morph is queer.
Yeah.
Um,
So
which
maybe Morph loves Wolverine.
I'm okay with. Like,
Yeah, you know what? Let Morph love Wolverine.
yeah, let Morph love whoever they want.
Yep. Morph is great.
Yeah. Um, which Morph is non-binary, by the way.
Oh, are they? I
The
didn't realize that.
yeah, yeah, they kind of talk about it.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, because in
Yeah,
the comics, I think Morph in the earlier comics, Morph was referred to as he. I think, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Morph was he. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like in this, they've actually called Morph them.
I gotta
Um,
pay attention to that more. I gotta do a rewatch and really pay attention to that.
there have been times when they've called Morph he,
Okay.
and like Morph hasn't like really like corrected him
Yeah.
because Morph's like, yeah, it's whatever, you know.
It's whatever.
Because sometimes like non-binary prefer any pronouns,
Yeah, you
really.
prefer any pronoun sometimes. Yep.
Um,
Mhm.
so like Morph being non-binary and like preferring any pronouns, like that works for them.
Yeah.
Um, but I will say Morph provided a lot of comic relief
Yes, Morph
in the
did.
best way. But like this was good. I
Mhm.
know like a lot of people want to see X-Men in film, and
Yeah,
I am one of them. However, if you never do another X-Men movie and you just keep churning out hits like X-Men
animated.
97 in
Mhm.
animation, I'll be a happy camper.
You know, I think the part with wanting the live action film is you're also nervous of how it's gonna
Yeah.
go. You know, like, you're nervous about who they're gonna cast for these,
Hmm.
famous characters that we
Oh
all
yeah.
love.
Yeah. Um, I mean, that goes back to what we were talking about with Pedro Pascal being cast as Reed Richards,
Yeah,
and how
he's, like,
honestly,
oversaturated.
yeah, like as
Mhm.
much as I love Pedro Pascal, to me he's not Reed Richards.
No.
You could make him Victor Von Doom. Like I would
Mhm.
love to see him as Victor Von Doom,
Yeah.
but to me he's not Reed Richards. You had the perfect Reed Richards with John Krasinski.
You did have the perfect Reed Richards with him.
And Emily Blunt would have been the perfect Sue Storm.
Sue Storm. Yep.
Yeah. So, um, but you know what? I mean, I'm gonna give the Fantastic Four movie a shot because I do love Vanessa Kirby.
Vanessa
Um,
Kirby's fantastic.
yeah, and I do love Pedro Pascal.
Mhm.
And then the guy that they have to play the Thing, from the Bear, love
Mhm.
him. He's
Yep.
fantastic.
He's also in Andor.
He was in Andor. He was in
Yep.
Andor. Yeah.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I just feel like Pedro, like I don't want to say he shouldn't be in the MCU, but I want to
But I
say he
like I
shouldn't
said,
be in the MCU.
I think he's oversaturated. I think he's in too much
Yeah,
content we're consuming already.
but that's what they did with Chris Pratt and Tom Holland and Mark
Exactly.
Wahlberg for a long time.
Yeah.
Because like if you look at it, Wahlberg was in a lot of stuff
So
for a
was
very
Chris
long time.
Pratt.
Yeah, Chris Pratt is now playing Garfield.
Yeah.
Uh, the Rock is in everything now.
Mhm.
Which I am so ready for just The Rock to go bye bye for a while.
See, the thing is, that's what Pedro
Yeah,
Pascal's him. He's in this whole
yeah,
thing where he's being cast in
yeah.
everything right now.
And and Chris Pratt shouldn't be Garfield and Mario. I'm
No,
sorry.
he should not. He should be one or the other.
He shouldn't have even been Mario, honestly.
No, he doesn't
Um,
even sound Italian.
no, I mean Garfield. It kind of makes sense because he
Yeah,
sounds like Garfield a little bit.
but he doesn't
Uh,
sound anything like
but you
Mario.
know what? I'll tell you real quick. That Garfield trailer. At first, I said, okay, yeah, this is pretty fun. And then, like, as the trailer went on, because like they showed it in front of the Phantom Menace when I
Yeah,
went, I was just sitting there and I was thinking, I don't want to see this movie now. Like, this looks terrible.
yeah. It does not look
Yeah.
good at all.
Yeah. Like at first it was really cute, like when you see baby Garfield and then like
Baby
he eats
Garfield,
the
yes, yes.
entire pizza.
And he eats the entire pizza, Baby
Loved
Garfield,
it.
yeah.
The antics with him and Odie in the
Yeah,
house with John, love it. And then like when they tried to do like this big adventure of him like getting catnapped, I just said to myself, no, like I don't want to see a Garfield movie like this.
not
Like
just that, it doesn't fit the comics of
it
Garfield.
doesn't fit the comics of
Gar
Garfield.
Garfield's
Garfield is a
comics,
lazy bum.
he's a lazy bum, and it's all about John often sitting at a table talking to him, to the
Yeah.
cat about something, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like if you want to do some fun Garfield stories like in short form of like him like around the house with Odie and John, I'm fine with that, but like a
Yeah.
full Garfield movie.
Well, do
Anyway,
you remember the Garfield cartoon from the '90s?
oh yeah, Garfield and Friends. Loved
Yeah.
Garfield and
See,
Friends.
that's the perfect way to tell a Garfield story, is
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
shorts, you know?
Oh yeah. But my whole point being Chris Pratt doesn't need to be in everything.
No, he doesn't.
Because he was successful in Guardians, that also casted him in Jurassic World,
And every other
which
movie.
the first Jurassic World was pretty good. I actually
Yeah.
really like the first Jurassic World. I will say this: he is the great Peter Quill. I love all four. I don't count Love and Thunder, but I love all four Guardians projects he's been in
Yes, Guardians projects,
with
yes.
Guardians 1, 2, 3,
The
and the
Christmas
Christmas
special.
special. I don't really count Love and Thunder
I don't count
as a
it
Guardians
either.
thing.
No.
Um, but I love him as Peter Quill. Um, but like even then, like if he wasn't cast for Peter Quill, um, and like they were doing like a new X-Men movie, like back the time when like he was like auditioning for a Marvel role,
Mhm.
you could have casted him as Scott,
Oh, yeah.
and I think he would have been a great Scott Summers.
Mhm.
If you were gonna reboot, like not have like James Marston
Yeah,
as Scott, or what was it, Ty Sheridan
I think so, Ty Sheridan, I think.
in the other movies that just ended with Dark Phoenix.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, like I said, I want more animated X-Men stories, especially ones that adapt these comic book storylines that were so prevalent when we were younger and are
Yes.
prevalent
Mhm.
now. Um, like, just keep giving me those. I know, like, they're setting Ms. Marvel up to be a mutant, and
Yes.
now in the comics, she's a mutant. She's no
She's a
longer
mutant in the
Inhuman.
comics. Yep.
Um, and then like Beast had the cameo at the end of the Marvels,
The Marvels. Yes.
with Monica,
Mhm.
um, which I liked seeing Beast.
Yeah, seeing
Um,
Beast was pretty cool, yeah.
yeah, but uh, X-Men,
Yeah.
yay X-Men.
Yay, X-Men.
If you are looking to get into X-Men comics, we do have an X-Men channel in our Discord server, which
Yes, we
we
do.
do
You have
try
a
to.
couple of lists, I think, in it.
I try to,
Yeah. Mhm.
which we try to recommend some X Men comics. So if you have not joined our Discord server yet, there is our link.
Yes.
Um, Highly recommend what Jonathan Hickman has been doing. Well, the Krakoa era is ending. We're about to get new
Mhm.
X Men books that start in July. Gail Simone is actually going to be writing um, Uncanny
Yes.
X Men, and then I believe Al Ewing's writing a series. Zeb Wells is writing a series. Um, so yeah, we're getting more X books coming out because I believe X Factor's coming back,
Yes.
which Angel and Havoc I think are going to be on that team.
Do you think
Um,
we'll see speaking of Angel, do you think he'll pop up next season?
I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, you had well, especially if they're bringing Apocalypse into things.
Yeah.
Um, but you also had the Angel cameo, like Morph was like shapeshifted into Angel
Angel.
in
Yeah.
the first episode. Like when the plane was crashing
Yes.
to save the other members of the
To
team.
save the other members of the team, yeah.
Yeah, so I have a feeling we'll see Angel. Um, a lot of characters are not off the table.
No.
There are a lot of X Men characters that they can definitely bring in for season two, especially because you you have to have a team to take over like while they're gone.
While they're gone, we're gonna need a team to take over. Yeah.
Yeah, and like if it's like X Factor and like you get Madrix and Strong Guy with Forge and like Layla Miller ends up showing up, like if you do that,
Mhm.
I'm okay with that too. Because like you have to have some sort of team. And that could be the way where you bring Angel in because he was part of X Factor at some point.
Yes.
Um so I I mean I'd love to see Angel, but they got to bring him in a way that makes sense.
Sense. Yes.
Um, and and even then, like Angel in the original animated series did turn into Archangel for a bit, because he was manipulated by Apocalypse.
Yes.
Um, so so you do have all of that going on as well. With Apocalypse being involved, yeah, you can set the stage for Angel to return. You can even bring Psylocke in as one of the members of the Four Horsemen too.
Yeah, you can, if you
Uh,
wanted to.
yeah, so there's a lot there. Um, but we won't know until we actually get some news. Right
Yeah.
now, Disney's really riding high on this. Unlike a certain video game company that shall not be named right now that
Yes.
closed some studios
Yes, unlike yeah.
recently. Uh, but no, like right now, like Disney's riding high on X-Men right now
Yes,
because
right
the
now.
people love it. This is what the people want. If
It's the
you
highest rated Marvel show on Disney
it
Plus.
is the highest rated, it's the highest rated Marvel show of all time.
Yes.
It's sitting at a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Tomatoes. Yep.
Um, but I will also say this, for those of you that complained about the X-Men being woke, um,
They've been
the
woke
X-Men
from
have
the
always
beginning.
yeah, the X-Men have been woke for over 60 years.
Yes.
Um,
I mean,
I'm sorry.
isn't it true that Stan Lee based the X-Men on LGBT rights?
It was LGBTQ, civil
Yeah.
rights, the civil rights movement.
Yeah.
It was based on everything.
Everything, yeah.
Um, equality for women, equality for everybody. Like
Yep.
Stanley based it on all of these civil issues that we
Mhm.
had going on back then, that we have going on
Going
now.
on today. Yep.
And for you to say that the X-Men have never been woke, clearly you've never read an X-Men comic.
Comic. Or watched even one episode of X-Men.
Yeah, because I'm going to tell you right now, they are fighting for their civil liberties.
They are fighting for their civil liberties to not be attacked and have the same
Yeah,
rights as everybody else on the planet.
exactly. So, like, you can't complain about the X-Men being like this political thing when they've always been
Always been
political.
that way. They've always
Um,
been political.
so like if that's your thing, like
Don't read the X-Men.
yeah, and go outside and touch some grass. Like
Yeah.
like I just
X-Men's
like
been woke since day one.
panel one of issue one.
Yeah, exactly.
Um
Like, it's always been that way.
yeah, so um yeah, a little bit shorter show today. Um because I also do have to kind of go to bed here.
Yeah.
Because I gotta work at 5.
Oh, yeah, you
Um
do have to get to bed, yes.
yeah. Um Mandy, I feel like I talked way too much. I'm so sorry.
No, 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 no. I enjoyed learning a lot about X-Men that I didn't know about. You
Oh,
are way more into the comics than I am. I have read some comics, but you're way more into it than me, so I got to
yeah.
learn a lot.
Uh,
So,
yeah, I'm gonna post a list in Discord
yeah.
of comics, of omnibuses and stuff like that. I will say this, like if you're looking into getting omnibuses, cheapgraphicnovels.com, in stock trades, like those are some really good places to
Those are the
go.
great places to get
Um,
graphic novels, yep.
but you can also get graphic novels and omnis from Amazon,
Yes.
and like they'll actually have them on sale sometimes. But the
Yep.
best place to get your graphic novels and omnibuses, go to your local comic book shop.
Go to your local comic book show. Yes.
Yeah. Um just go to your local comic book shop. If they don't have it, they can order it for you. And a lot of these stories are getting reprinted all of the time.
Mhm.
Um if you're looking at going back and reading the original run, the Marvel Epic Collection just re-released the
Yes, it did.
like the first like 16 or so issues of the original run. Um, so you can always like go and pick that up, and they're like depending on what it collects, they're like anywhere from like 30 to $50, which
Yeah.
isn't bad at all.
Mhm.
Um, And then of course like your omnibuses, depending on what it collects, it could be like $75 or it could be like $150.
Yeah, omnibuses tend to vary between anywhere from I've seen 75 to 100 usually.
Yeah. The Hickman Omni is 75, but I think I got it on sale for like 45.
Yeah.
And then the animated series adaptations Omni is 125, but that's always on sale. That one's always on sale, and that one's really cool. Like if you want to go back and read comics based on like the original X-Men animated series,
Yeah.
um, highly recommend it. Uh, Now your issue, this is like a humble brag here. Uh, your volume may or may not contain an autograph by Cal Dodd,
Yes.
depending on it, depending on
Depending.
if you met him. Um, and I'm not. I kind of sounded like an asshole. I'm sorry.
No,
Uh,
don't worry.
but like um, but like it's really cool. Like I showed him that omnibus, and he was like, "Oh man, this is really cool." And then I showed him like the Cold Vengeance story was in there, and that was like one of
That's
his favorite
awesome.
stories
That's
to
so
do.
awesome.
Um, so yeah, like if you're looking for X-Men, if you're looking for the Krakoa era, start with House and Powers of X.
Yes.
Um, if and then go into X-Men, there's X of Swords, there's Hellions, there's all sorts of fun stuff there. Um, and then like if you're looking for the classic stuff, Generation X was really good. I believe Uncanny X Force from like the mid 2010s is getting a reprint in Omni's
Mhm.
format, and that had like Wolverine and Angel and Psylocke and Phantom X and Deadpool on that team, just to name a few. And like the first story arc, Kill Baby Apocalypse.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, so tons of X books out there.
tons of them.
I gotta get lists.
You gotta
I
get
gotta
lists
get
on
lists
there so
together.
we can catch up. All of us can catch up.
It's a lot to catch up on.
Yes.
If you think One Piece is overwhelming 25 years in, X-Men is overwhelming 60 years in.
Oh, yes.
So
It's like
yeah.
trying to keep up with all the Batman ones.
Oh,
That's trouble.
I've given up on that. I told you that. I've
Yeah.
given up on that.
I'm
But
still
yeah,
trying to keep up on that one. Oh.
yeah. The only one that that like I've really read, like recent one that I really dove into was the New 52 Batman and Robin,
Yeah, the new
because
52 Batman.
that one was really good.
Oh, it really was.
And then I read Gotham Central also, which
Yeah,
Gotham Central was really good. Um,
that was fantastic. That comic.
yeah, all that stuff. Yeah, I'm gonna go to bed.
All right.
I'm tired,
Yes, you got to go to bed. You
and
got
I've
work.
got and I've got the Lorcana thing tomorrow too.
Yeah,
Playing in the Lorcana pre-release tomorrow, which
which he will be telling us all about in the Discord afterwards.
oh yeah.
Yes.
So I asked how much it was, real quick, and then it's $12, price of 2 packs per round.
Okay.
So I don't know how many rounds they're gonna do. It's probably gonna be like 3 or 4.
I would think 4 rounds,
So
maybe.
looking at probably about 40 or so bucks.
Not bad. Not
Um,
bad.
no, and like with it, like each round, you get 2 packs each round, and like you just shuffle all the cards from the
All
packs,
together. Yeah.
and you make like a 24 card deck, which is pretty cool because like they're not doing ink limits
Yeah.
for the thing. So uh, really looking forward to that actually. So I will
You're
try.
gonna win some rounds. You're gonna win some. I know it.
I hope so because with this being a new set, it makes it an even playing field now.
Yes, it does.
Um, and like I do have I do have like I do have a small event under my belt, and now I
Mhm.
have a big event under my belt with playing in the set championships and
Yeah.
getting my butt handed to me. Um, all for a stitch mat and card.
Yeah.
Um, but like this one, like the set championships are gonna have like an Ursula mat and card because this is
Yes.
like an Ursula heavy thing.
Theme. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But I'm hoping. Hey nerds, just finished our show. What did I miss? You missed X-Men, bud. You missed all of our
Yeah.
X-Men recap.
All our X-Men
Uh
recap that we did. Hey,
now
bro.
now I'm talking about Lorcana and how I'm gonna play that tomorrow.
He's gonna play that
It's
tomorrow and
pretty
hopefully
interesting.
win some matches.
Yes. Which like another thing that they were saying at the place that I'm going to be playing at, because they kind of it's a small store, so they got kind of limited like other product like
Mhm.
the treasure troves and stuff like that. Um, like if you play in the event, you get entered into a drawing to win the chance to buy some of the other product that they have,
Yeah.
which I think is more than fair, because that way like they're not getting completely wiped out.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, but I may check one
Especially
of
since they're a smaller store, so it makes sense.
Mhm. Mandy, Mandy.
Yeah, I'm here. Do you hear me?
Yeah, yeah. What'd you say?
I said, especially since it's a smaller store.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. But I'm gonna try to check my local comic book store as well because I saw that they got product in and they posted it about like 10 hours ago. So I might stop by on my way home just to see if they have some
Ooh,
product.
see if they have some product. Yeah.
Um, if not, it's fine because like I'm already buying like a few packs here and there
Yeah.
tomorrow
Hmm.
night. Um, so yeah, I'll just see like what the damage is tomorrow night. But it'll be nice to like come home with at least 6 to 8 packs and go from there.
And go from there.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
And get that
yeah.
deck going.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I just got to figure out like what I want to do,
Hmm.
like what colors I want to run and stuff like that.
Yep.
If I want to try to mix the madrigals with Scrooge McDuck
Yeah.
and
Scrooge
Huey,
McDuck.
Dewey, and Louie. Um, yeah, so we'll see. Anyway, I'm out of here.
All
Um,
right. It was great talking X-Men with you.
yeah,
As always.
yeah, yeah. It was great. Thank you for coming on and geeking out about the batch last time, and then
Yes.
geeking out about X-Men this time. It was a lot of fun. So or no, yeah, no, it was just Matt and I last week. Yeah, we
Yeah.
had boys'
Last week
night
I
on the
had to
Beacon.
miss. It was the week before I was there.
Yeah,
No.
we had boys' night on the Beacon.
But I was in
Uh,
the chat. I was in the chat.
yeah, you were.
No.
Yeah, that's it. So yeah, have a wonderful week, everybody.
Yep.
Uh, I am going to. I guess we're gonna try to talk more Acolyte next week. I got to get some notes and stuff together for that. But yeah, until then, we should simulcast one Saturday since we go on at the same time one day. Yeah, that would be a lot of fun,
That
Ro.
would be a
That
lot
would,
of
that would be a
fun.
lot of fun.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that would be.
yeah, we'll do like one super duper major mega podcast,
Yes.
geeking out about a bunch of stuff. So, but yeah, that's it. Hope that you all have a wonderful week. May the force be with you. And remember, at the end of the day, we are all the Republic. Until next time, we will talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.